Ready to go?
Wonderful. Good evening. This is the ordinary meeting of the Council on the 24th of November 2020, held via remote technology. I now hand you over to our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Rosemary Dillon.
Thank you, Storm. Good evening, councillors. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Blue Mountains City Council. This meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed. An audio file and a link to a live stream is available from the Council's website. The audio recording will be available on the Council's website for 6 months after the upload date. As all statements made at this meeting will be recorded, your image and voice may be recognised and other people may be aware that you've attended the meeting. Your continued attendance at the meeting after this statement is made is taken as your consent to your image and voice being webcast. All persons in attendance at this meeting, whether addressing the Council or making comments that may be detected by the recording equipment, should refrain from making any defamatory comments or from releasing any personal or confidential information about another individual without that other individual's consent. The Council is not responsible for the statements of any individual made during this meeting. Any defamatory statements or any statements which include personal or confidential information are the sole responsibility of the individual who makes them. The Council's Code of Meeting Practice sets standards of conduct for a Council meeting. If any person in attendance at the meeting acts in a disorderly manner, or if a person makes defamatory or unacceptable comments, then the meeting may be interrupted by the Mayor or by me as Chief Executive Officer and appropriate action taken. This meeting must not be recorded by any party other than the Council, and members of the public have been invited to provide submissions to items on the meeting agenda in advance, and any submissions received have been provided to the councillors. I now ask you to please welcome the Mayor.
Dear God, we sincerely seek your blessing on this council so that its deliberations may advance your glory and the true welfare of the people of the City of Blue Mountains. The City of Blue Mountains is located within the country of the Darug and Gundungurra peoples. The Blue Mountains City Council recognises that Darug and Gundungurra traditional owners have a continuous and deep connection to their country, and that this is of great cultural significance to Aboriginal people both locally and in the region. For Darug and Gundungurra people, Ungarra takes in everything within the physical, cultural and spiritual landscape. Landforms, waters, air, trees, rocks, plants, animals, foods, medicines, minerals, stories and special places. It includes cultural practice, kinship, knowledge, songs, stories and art, as well as spiritual beings and people, past, present and future. Blue Mountains City Council pays respect to elders, past and present, while recognising the strength and capacity and resilience of past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Blue Mountains region. Thank you. I have a continuing leave of absence from Councillor Bowling, who's recovering from surgery, and I expect him back at our first meeting in 2021. So we all wish him well. I have a procedural motion moved Councillor Miles and seconded Councillor Vanderklay that standing orders are suspended such that the two of them can address the Council on a matter of importance prior to any business being conducted. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's Councillor Brown against, all the rest in favour. Did I call that right? Oh, you're in favour, Kerry? Okay, I'll put it again. All those in favour? Against, declare carried unanimously. That's moved Councillor Miles. Councillor Miles has the call.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I seek the call to advise the Chamber and through the Chamber to the people of Ward 3 of a matter of considerable importance without which I would not wish business to be transacted. After 28 years as a member of the Liberal Party, I have today advised the party of my resignation. The last several years that this has led to my decision have been a period where I've seen the Liberal Party increasingly fail to represent the values of the people of this area. I can no longer go along with the actions of the party at multiple levels. So I would say to the people of Ward 3, you have known me as a Liberal and I have represented those values to you, I hope successfully. I remain committed to those values. I don't believe the Liberal Party any longer is. When I think about the multiple years that the state Liberal government attempted to sack this council, and we know that we haven't heard any reasons yet why that should be the case. When I think about the state government's plans, not one, but two plans for medium density housing. When I think about doubling the number of freight on the trucks on the Great Western Highway and making them the largest kind, 30 metre and B doubles. When I think about raising the dam wall and potentially flooding part of the World Heritage Area, I say to the people, I don't stand in front of that anymore. These are things that do not have my support. And while I have loved the Liberal Party dearly, I believe it is no longer that which I knew. It is no longer the party of John Howard. A man like Kerry Bartlett, I don't believe would be pre-selected these days. It is a party that demands party first and people second. And I've advised the party, as I say, of my resignation, and I will henceforth sit in this place as an independent. I will seek re-election to Ward 3 as an independent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor van der Klee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it is a sad day because I, like Councillor Miles, have tendered my resignation to the Liberal Party for over 35 years and close on 40 years of support of the Liberal Party. As a campaign director, as candidate for Ward 2 on 5 occasions, I have represented the people of Ward 2, and I want to tell them that I will still represent them on this term of council as an independent. It is sad that there is an element inside the Liberal Party that are really against councillors doing their job for the community. We got criticised for not supporting the airport, not supporting medium density housing. And then when we looked like we were going to be sacked, they were in the council chambers supporting sacking of Blue Mountain City Council and not supporting us in trying to do a job and find out what went wrong. We have stuck to our guns and to do that. So to the people of Ward 2, I am telling you today that I will be representing you for the rest of this term as an independent councillor for Ward 2. And I will be standing for a re-election on the 4th of September 2021 as an independent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Miles and van der Klee. Motion to resume standing orders. Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor van der Klee. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. I thank you both. We've got the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 27th of October 2020. I have a motion, if I may, that they represent a true record. Move Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Hollywood. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously, and I'll duly sign. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. All right, no declarations. I just will entertain a procedural motion, if I may, from Councillor Kerry Brown, which relates to items 14 and S2. It's moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Hall. Councillor Brown, if you'd like to just let the councillors know what that motion is.
This is to defer the consideration of the impounding tender so that we can get, there's more information I think we need to have as councillors before we make a commitment on the basis of the information currently available in the confidential paper. So it's regarding the impounding services and the future of that, and that we need to have an interactive briefing on it, and then make a decision once we've got, I think we need a bit more information to be made available to us on that.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. And Councillor van der Klee, you might mute yourself. We just call out. Just to indicate, Councillor Brown's motion has the effect of setting up an interactive briefing next week, followed by an extraordinary meeting of council to determine the matter. It's been moved and seconded. I'll just indicate that it has my support as a sensible way forward. Is there any opposition to this procedural motion? There being no opposition, I'll put it all as in favour. Against, declare it carried unanimously. And that is items 14 and S2 in the way that has been described. Councillors, I would like to move an acknowledgement of the passing of Drusilla Wendelowski, and it's seconded the Deputy Mayor. It is with a great deal of sadness that as a council tonight we acknowledge the passing of Drusilla. She passed on the 14th of October this year, and I'm really grateful to the CEO, Dr. Rosemary Dillon, as well as former Chief Librarian John Merriman, who represented us at her memorial service. She was an important part of this organisation and a pioneering woman leader in the administrative ranks of the council. Drusilla migrated to this country in 1974 with her family from the United States of America, and she settled in Springwood, and that was her home for many, many years. She had a Bachelor of Arts with honours from Smith College and also a Master's from Harvard. Drusilla started what was undoubtedly an absolutely celebrated career in council when she joined the libraries in 1979 as an assistant library cataloguer and then a technical services librarian, before being appointed to the position of Deputy Chief Librarian and then ultimately Chief Librarian. In the 1980s, Drusilla was seconded to work in Council's strategic planning unit, and the job she had there was to assist with the development and implementation of the strategic plan for the City of Blue Mountains, a pioneering strategic plan in those days. And I'm advised by those who know her, especially Dr. Rosemary Dillon, that she was an absolute driving force in translating the strategic plan into a sort of a corporate program made up of achievable actions. And after a lot of years of contributing to the development of Council's library services and to the corporate plan for the city, in July 1989, Drusilla Wendelowski was appointed as the first female member of Council's executive leadership team. And the position she occupied then was that of Director of Corporate Services. And she continued in that position until 1992, when she became the Director of Community and Environment. She was an inspiring and highly motivated mover and shaker. I came into the council just after she left in the late 90s, and her presence was still strongly felt and she was strongly spoken of. Indeed, she is to this day. She was someone who got stuff done. She was always positive in the way she approached her tasks, and she was an incredible mentor to her staff, but also to others within the organisation who held her in high regard because of her intellectual rigour, as well as an energy that's described as boundless. And she brought those values to her work every day. She had an incredible capacity to support and develop others, and that was a real passion of hers. She worked tirelessly in the advance of the needs of this community and the staff of the City of Blue Mountains. She had an incredible mind, a fine mind, an impressive mind, and an awesome work ethic. She was an inspiration in many ways, and in particular, I know that she was a role model for many younger, capable women, and was in what was then a much more male-dominated workplace than even it is now. I know because I've spoken to her that she was an incredible inspiration to Dr. Rosemary Dillon, and I know that she would have been very proud the day that this council employed and appointed its first female chief executive. I know that she would also look upon our current executive leadership team and the loneliness of Will and Gary, surrounded by strong and powerful women. And I think she could know that her own influence is there in that executive leadership team today. If she hadn't gone before them, we would probably still have a sea of blokes in that role on the executive leadership team. Drusilla paved the way and she inspired those who followed her. Dr. Dillon was one of those who was inspired by and mentored by Drusilla Wendelowski. our council tonight, indeed our whole community, through us, honours Drusilla. We honour her for her significant, her outstanding contribution to the city that we live in, over many years of dedicated service, exemplary service to this community, without seeking fanfare, without seeking baubles of recognition, just because she was passionate. I want to extend the thoughts of all of us, indeed, and condolences of the entire community of the Blue Mountains to Drusilla's family, in particular her son John and his family, her brother, and her family in the United States of America, and all of those whose lives were positively inspired by her life, by her service, and by her contribution to the city of Blue Mountains. Does the Deputy Mayor wish to speak? Or have I said it for him? I think I've said it for him. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hoare, did you wish to speak? No, okay. Anyone else wish to speak? I'm going to do something unusual, and I'm going to beg the sort of the will of the council, and I'm going to ask Dr. Rosemary Dillon to say a couple of words if I could put her on the spot. I know the council will accept Rosemary speaking in this matter. Dr. Dillon has the call.
Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Dillon for now.
I'll begin just by saying it was an absolute honour and privilege for me to be able to represent the City of Blue Mountains and the council at Drusilla's memorial service. It was such a lovely service, and her family did her such great honour, and there was just beautiful speeches. Drusilla was very much someone who did get things done, a mover and a shaker. No matter what the situation or the adversity, she had a positive attitude. And I think you said it, Mark, but she was definitely a role model for many women in a world that was very much dominated by men. And on a number of occasions, I saw her act in a way that exemplified values of inclusiveness, values that we can hold our head up high and think how proud we would be of the way she took the city forward. She was involved in so many different, even though she was mainly working in the libraries and then a little stint in the strategic planning unit before she went to corporate services, she actually was an integral part of all elements of the council when she was with the council, and especially when she was on the leadership team. So thank you, Mark, for your words. And I think I'm especially mindful of her family in Australia and in America. You can be very proud of Drusilla. She did make a difference, and her legacy will live on for the City of Blue Mountains.
If there are no further speakers, what I might do is two things. Three things, in fact. Firstly, say Vale, Drusilla Wendolowski, on behalf of the people of the City of Blue Mountains. Second thing is I'll put it to the vote. And the third thing is we might have a moment's silence. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously, and we now observe a moment's silence. Thank you, councillors. All right, mayoral minute number 2, standing in my name. It's moved by me and seconded the Deputy Mayor. I'll speak to this briefly because we have a huge agenda tonight. As we know, there have been waste incinerators proposed for Eastern Creek, for Blacktown, for Matraville, for Lithgow and Wallacia. And as you also know, there's recently been an environmental impacts statement and submission period from the 6th of October to the 16th of November for a new development proposed for Eastern Creek. We have all noted a high level of community concern in relation to waste incinerator proposals. And frankly, I would like for us, given that we've previously raised objections relating to truck movements across the Blue Mountains and concerns around the proposal in general, for us to receive a briefing about the current state of energy from waste in New South Wales and its potential impact on the city of Blue Mountains. So really all this mayoral minute does is seek to brief us on these matters at a time when it seems that there is an expansion of its use. Does the Deputy Mayor wish to speak? Is there any opposition to us being briefed on these matters? Are people content? You've got some opposition, Councillor Brown? No, you're happy? You wish to speak? You're on mute, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just really briefly, I just wanted to say a couple of things.
Nothing.
Yeah, I support this because I feel that we probably do need to come out. My feeling is very strongly in opposition, but I'm happy to be informed more fully. But all the evidence, which seems almost irrefutable to me, is that there's so many levels at which this idea of burning rubbish, millions of tonnes of rubbish, is just shocking. And we know that Western Sydney already has the worst air quality in Australia, and they want to add to it. You know, so that alone, the idea of these particulate particles, which are so bad for human health, aside from all the other issues of pollution, that alone I think is really concerning. But I support this because I think the more we understand, the more we're going to be able to take a clear position on this, which I think we do need to do. We are part of Western Sydney. Thank you.
Any opposition, councillors, or any further statements? Councillor Hollywood.
Just a very quick statement, which was that yesterday was the Local Government New South Wales conference, and matters of waste to energy motions were moved, and they were hotly debated. And I think that this is really, really timely. So it might be useful to go back and have a look at that when the officers are actually briefing us as well. I'm happy to provide that background.
Thank you. Anything further? There being nothing, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Mayoral minute number 3 is moved me, seconded Councillor Brown. I don't intend to say much at this point. I think I'll save the debate because there's a complementary urgency motion later in the night that I will rule as urgent, and I think there might be more discussed when that comes forward, except to say that there was a report on radio which caused me to bring this forward in relation to the work of Mr. Peter Piggott in ensuring the survival of the Palmer wallaby at his private wildlife reserve. I want to acknowledge that. And also I want to set in place a process whereby consideration can be given to the waiver of rates, given the work he does. It's not within the council's power to waive rates, it's within the power of the state government, but I want to set up a process whereby we assist in that space. To say no more, because I think the majority of what's going to be said will be said later in the evening when we consider the urgency motion. Councillor Brown, are you content to leave it at that point and debate later on?
Yes, that's okay. Yes, certainly.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. If one matter before us, I'll put all those in favour. Against, declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4, CEO performance. I move, I'll ask for a motion from the floor that be deferred to confidential session as the last item. It's moved, Councillor Van der Clay, seconded Councillor Hollywood. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Mayoral matter of urgency number 1 relates to fire and rescue tankers and a recent announcement by the state government. It's seconded the Deputy Mayor as chair of the Bushfire Management Committee. The mayoral matter of urgency says that council expresses its opposition to plans by the New South Wales government to relocate Blue Mountains fire and rescue tankers outside the Springwood local government area, and that we write to the New South Wales Minister for Emergency Services. And I will note that I'll also write to the Premier asking that this plan is reversed, and I'll do so via our state member as well. Councillors, this announcement became publicly known in recent days. I note that the government has said it won't act during the fire season, but it shouldn't act at all. We should be about augmenting bushfire services in the Blue Mountains, not reducing them. If other areas, and I understand these other areas are the Bathurst State Electorate and the Hawkesbury State Electorate, need extra fire services, then they should get extra fire services, not our fire services. I don't begrudge them the extra fire services if they need them. In fact, I want to see them get them. But it's crazy to take any fire services out of the city of Blue Mountains. Those tankers do respond to a number of different fire types, including bushfire, and they are located at, as I think I said before, Springwood and Katoomba. I'm also concerned that if those tankers are removed, whether there may be staffing changes that could follow the removal of those tankers, and that is a worry to me. Recently, the insurance industry rated the Blue Mountains as the most bushfire-prone area in New South Wales and possibly Australia. It is insane to consider removing resources from a city like this. And on that basis, I think this mayoral matter of urgency is extremely important. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, look, I totally agree with everything you just said on this particular issue. And as chairman of the Bushfire Management Committee, we need every resource that we can get. And the loss of 2 tankers from Fire and Rescue, who do a fantastic job, and we saw the work that they did last Christmas and in November, December and January. And all of those vehicles were used very, very heavily. And they supplement the rural fire service, and we supplement them. It is just a crying shame that the state government wants to take 2 of these vehicles and put them somewhere else. We need them to stay here in the Blue Mountains.
Thanks, Councillor Vanderclay. Councillor McGregor has the call, then Councillor Fernanda, then Councillor Brown. Councillor
An accident there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and you're right, these fire and rescue bushfire tankers are equipped to and do regularly get to fire outbreaks before our brigades do, because they're staffed and they don't have to rely on volunteers who are often not rostered on for duty. I had constant experience of fire and rescue during the Black Summer fires. They supplied water to brigades fighting the Ruan Castle fire on a continuous basis out along Narranac, and they also resupplied the Monitor there. That was a vital part of the firefighting effort. My direct personal experience of it was on about 19th to 20th of December. I was doing community liaison work and was called out late in the day to go to Blackheath and warn people to prepare to leave their homes, as the fire had jumped Hat Hill Creek and the containment lines down there, and was about to impact on Blackheath. Before we got out along Hat Hill Road, fire and rescue tankers howled past us and began the suppression work. So they play a very valuable role. And as you said, the needs of Chifley Command and of Hawkesbury Command for the support of these tankers shouldn't be met at our cost. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McGregor. Councillor Fernanda, then Councillor Brown. Councillor Fernanda has the call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually find this proposal absolutely outrageous. I can't even begin to understand the logic of the decision to remove tankers out of our area. With any great bushfire that we've just seen this season and previous seasons, what do we need to do? We need to deploy other units from either RFS, Fire and Rescue, from outer area to come and resource Blue Mountains, which in itself tells us that we do not have enough tankers to begin with. If we need to deploy other tankers to our area in a time of a bushfire. I actually find this quite negligent in their thinking. If we're looking at disaster resilience here, in which the government is now saying all communities need to be more resilient towards bushfires and looking at mitigation, why in the world are we removing our tankers? I just find the whole notion absolutely appalling. And I'm wondering, Mr. Mayor, would it also be worth writing a letter to Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons, Head of Resilience New South Wales, highlighting to him what has been proposed, bring it to his attention and to seek his intervention, because after all, this is a resilience issue as well. If we're looking at building disaster resilience in communities, it also means resourcing them with the personnel in emergency services, but also the resources for them to be able to do their job. Removing tankers is just absolutely ludicrous. I don't know what brain came up with that. But if they can come and tell us that we do not need tankers in one of the world's most prone bushfire area, then, you know, where are we going to? But if we could consider actually writing to Shane Fitzsimmons for his intervention with this too.
Councillor, I'll take that on board, and Councillor is going to read point 2 as saying the Council writes the New South Wales Minister of Emergency Services, Premier, State Member, and Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Brown has the call. Councillor Fernanda, if you could go on mute. Councillor Brown, then Councillor Brown.
Yes, I was just going to suggest an amendment too, because I had put in an urgency motion, but covers the same ground. Right. I went down to the protest that Trish Doyle called at short notice out at Springwood, where many of the men had, well, men and women, but mainly men had gathered. And talking to some of them, one of the things they pointed out was sort of what's been touched on here is actually there's actually an increased need for both because of climate change and because we're increasing a population and we're increasing a number of houses that need to be protected, as well as climate change increasing the number of fires and so on. They actually need more resources. So I was just going to suggest, and they haven't been increased, apparently they have not been increased for some time. So I was going to suggest adding that instead of reducing, that they need to actually increase resourcing and staffing. So we push for that at the same time.
Ask the Executive Officer to note those words as point 3. I'll take them on board. I'm sure the seconder will. He's nodding his assent. So thank you, Councillor Brown. We'll take it on board. Did you have any more to say?
No, that's it.
You're good. Okay. I'll get you to go on mute. Councillor Hoare, then Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, as a serving, arduous and advanced firefighter who held a hose for some hours on the Darling Causeway off the back of directly connected to a toll tanker that had been hired, I find it hard to express my depth of feeling in opposition to this crazy proposal, while still remaining within the boundaries of polite debate. I'm frankly furious by this decision. It's just the hypocrisy of giving us all premier citations and then stripping us of the resources, or not providing resources we need to do our job. Just beggars belief. That's all I have to say.
All right, Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find this so hard to believe that they're talking about removing tankers now, when we've been told just in the last few days of the new high fire risk, which is coming to the western area of Sydney in the next few days. And so they're talking about removing our tankers when we're going to need to have all appliances that we can on the ground ready to go when and if it does break out, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Schreiber. A good point. I'll get you to go on mute, and thank you for that contribution. Anyone else? It hasn't been spoken against, so I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Mayoral matter of urgency number 2, standing in my name, is seconded Councillor Christie. And I move that the council now considers the following matter of urgency from me as mayor. The council calls the Environment Protection Authority in to investigate odour issues at the Blaxland Waste Management Facility as a matter of urgency, and to provide advice on the immediate resolution of same, including guidance as to the future management of the site. Councillors, I want to acknowledge that our staff have been working on this issue for a long time. I want to acknowledge that they've been doing so in a spirit of seeking to resolve the issue and in good faith, and to acknowledge their work and the dedication they bring to it. This in no way contradicts that. However, this has been going on too long. It's been going on now for a time that is unacceptable. I drove late on Sunday to the northern part of Warramoo, but this affects more than just that area, and the stench was absolutely appalling. It was oppressive, and it is impacting my constituents. Something is wrong, and we are not on top of it. It is probably an extraordinary thing for a mayor to do, to call a regulator into their own council, but I am, because our constituents deserve no less. This issue needs to be resolved now. Our residents shouldn't live like this. It can't go on. And this motion is deliberately drafted because it doesn't just refer to the immediate issue. I very deliberately included the words, including guidance as to the future management of the site. We need to understand the extent to which a tip in a residential area is sustainable into the future. We need to resolve this issue now, and we need a map and a plan for the future, and that map and plan needs to be shared with the residents. I understand that when the tip eventually closes, it will have a cost impact on residents. That is something we need to consider, and we need to redouble our efforts to reduce landfill. We need to continue to investigate full organics and whether or not, in fact, a partnership with a local neighbouring council like Penrith might afford us a cost-effective way of reducing landfill. We need to look at whether we can capture methane gases, if indeed that's an issue. I know we have burners on site now that take away some gases and reduce carbon emissions from the site. I know green bins have reduced the amount of putrescible waste that goes into the site, but we still have a problem. It's unacceptable. People shouldn't live like this, and it needs to be dealt with. I use strong language in this resolution. I talk about it being dealt with as a matter of urgency. I talk about it being dealt with immediately, and I seek the immediate resolution of the smell issues at the tip, along with future guidance about the management of the site. People cannot wait any longer. As councillors, we've received a number of briefings in the course of this year about the matter, and we need to understand that in all of those briefings, we've had reasons put forward, like the rain event in February, the amount of green waste that was kept there, but I don't think those are the issues. I understand the green waste has been removed. I understand the rain impacts have been fixed, and yet the problem continues. We need to look at whether or not we're operating too closely to homes, particularly in North Warramoo, and if we are, we need to move back. I note a resolution from the council in 2005 in an extraordinary meeting where it was resolved that we would not operate close to homes in that part of the world. If we are, we must not. That resolution, in my opinion, is binding upon this council. These residents deserve to have this issue addressed and addressed immediately. I want to make it clear, this is in no way an expression of negativity towards our staff. I want to join the Environment Protection Authority to the effort, but do it now. I expect that the phone call will go out tomorrow. I want them to join the effort, to be part of the effort, to resolve this issue, to resolve it now, and to give us a roadmap for the future of this site. Our residents deserve no less. It's unacceptable. It's got to stop. They can't live like this, and we need to take action on their behalf. I'll end by saying this. The people of Blaxland and Warramoo take the landfill for the whole of the city of Blue Mountains. That is something that they live with for all of us. There's no landfilling happening at Katoomba anymore. It comes to Blaxland. Those residents live with a community service that affects the entire city, and the entire city needs to stand with them and resolve this issue. No cost should be spared, no expense. This needs to be fixed and fixed now. I call the seconder. Councillor Christie has the call.
Sorry, just trying to find the perfect time to unmute. Excuse any kids in the background. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing this motion forward. I'm more than happy to second it. Like yourself, I've been fielding dozens of calls and emails and complaints over social media about the tip. I appreciate all the work that the staff have put in and the effort that they've put in over the last 10 months. But quite frankly, I think after 10 months of waiting, I think the residents' patience are well and truly worn thin. And I believe that we do need the regulator to come in and investigate to provide assistance to our staff or to and to provide guidance on what our next steps should be. I don't think it's acceptable that residents have to go through such an appalling stench, whether it's through a rain event or any other incident. I look forward to seeing the report from the EPA. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Christie. Is there any opposition to this? And no other people need to speak? Am I okay to put it? Right, there's one matter before us. And before I put it, it is my intention that the report from the EPA would be one that we would make public. I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Against, it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, for your support. We're going to go to, I think, before we go to our auditor, who is speaking, I believe, to item number 5, pull that out. I'm just going to take items that councillors wish to speak to. Councillor Feld, do you have any items to pull out? I'll go around the room, the virtual room. Councillor Feld,
yes, thanks very much. Item number 16.
Item number 16.
And
yes.
number 18.
Item 16 and 18.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Fell. Is that all for you?
That's all.
Councillor van der Clay. You're on mute.
Yes, item 24, 30,
yep,
and 37.
24, 30, and 37. Thank you. Councillor Hollywood. Do you have any pull out?
They are already out.
Thank you. Councillor McGregor, are you content?
I am content, Mr. Mayor.
I'm so pleased. Your contentment contents me. Councillor Schreiber, do you have any you wish to pull out, or are you equally content? Mute. Mute, please, Councillor Schreiber.
I am content. I am content. I'd like to ask a question in number 6.
So you pull out 6 in order to ask a question?
Yes.
Done. We'll pull that out. Thanks, Councillor Schreiber. Councillor Fernanda. Councillor Schreiber, if you could go on mute. Content, Councillor Fernanda. It's good. Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown, are you content, or are there items you wish to pull out?
I want to pull out number 17 and 18. And
17 and 18 is
18.
already out.
Okay. Is 19 confidential? I'm confused. No. 19. I just have a question on that, I think. Yes, on 19.
So 17, 18 and 19, Councillor Brown?
Yes, that's it. And with 30's
And
out
Councillor-
already, isn't it? Yep, 30's out already.
Yeah,
Yep.
and 18 was out already as well. Councillor Fell had pulled it out. So, yep. And 30 is out already as well. So is that you, Councillor Brown?
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get you to go on mute. Councillor Miles.
Content.
You're good?
Yep.
Content. Councillor Christie. Are you content?
I'm content.
That's excellent news. Councillor Hua.
Sublimely content and equanimous.
Excellent. Please put on your microphone. We'll now move to item number 5, and Ash is here. And Ash, you have the next 5 minutes. We have you have our undivided attention. Thank you, Ash.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, councillors, the council executive and leadership team, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Ash Pather, and this evening I'll be giving a presentation on behalf of the Audit Office of New South Wales on the conduct of the audit. To provide a brief overview, I'd like to acknowledge up front that we have issued an unqualified audit opinion, which means that there are no material issues. The key audit risks have been addressed, and I will discuss this in further detail shortly. There were no material misstatements noted. In terms of compliance with legislative requirements, there are no issues to note. As with any audit, there were some recommendations for improvement, but none of them were high risk in nature. In terms of the key focus areas for this year's audit, there were 6 areas of focus. The first one was the assessment of fair value of council's infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. This being the largest balance sheet item, there was due focus on this. I'm happy to say that there were no significant issues arising out of the work in this area. Another area of focus was the quality and timeliness of financial reporting. It is the responsibility of council to ensure that the financials are prepared and lodged with the Office of Local Government in a timely manner, and that has been done. Information technology. This is also a focus area for the audit, given the ongoing and increasing reliance on information technology to support the council's operating activities. There were no significant findings in this area. This year we had a focus on natural disasters as well, given the bushfires and storm damage. Again, council had addressed this adequately and there were no significant findings. In terms of the 5th area of focus, this was on the new accounting standards. So we had 2 new accounting standards this year. On revenue, there were 2 standards and there was an additional standard on leases. This was a significant body of work for the council, and I'm happy to say that council got through the process well, and all the relevant disclosures and adjustments that are required for the financial report have been reflected. The last area of focus was the impact of COVID-19 on council, and a number of disclosures were required to the financial statements and a number of considerations as well with respect to the performance of council. All of those matters were taken into consideration and there's no residual issues in regards to that. In terms of, there's a number of benchmarks that the Office of Local Government does like the council to report against. I can say just in summary that 3 were above benchmark and 3 were below, but with reference to the ones that were below. One of them related to COVID-19. Another one was in regards to a matter arising out of the adjustments for the new accounting standards, and the other benchmark that was below expectations was actually trending in the right direction if you look at the last 2 years. So overall, I think the results reflect that the council has performed well in their presentation of the financial statements. As I said, there was no material issues, and we have given a clean audit opinion on both the general purpose financial report and the special purpose financial report. And that summarises the report on the conduct of the audit.
Asha, thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? There being none, there's one matter before us. It's moved the Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor McGregor. Any debate? Any opposition? Item number 5, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Ash, I thank you for your time. Councillors, just noting the items we pulled out earlier, can we please take items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, S1, 15, and the contents of 15, please note, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 38 in Globo. That's moved. I think did I take a move?
Can I? I've just seen that it was number 20, not 19. Can we pull 20 out? That's my question. Sorry. That was a confidential paper, though.
One second.
Sorry.
1 second. We're resolving to go into confidential session with 20.
Okay.
You pulled out 19.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. I meant, yep.
By passing 20, and by passing 16, 20, and 22, we go into confidential session at the appropriate time.
Oh.
Right.
Look, it doesn't matter. I'll ask it. It doesn't matter. I'll ask it to. I can ask it to staff. It doesn't matter.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Brown. Thank you for that. And just so everyone knows, by passing these, we're resolving to deal with them in confidential session at the end of the meeting. All right. Thank you. So that's been moved and seconded. Just check with the executive officer. I did take a mover and second on those, didn't I? Yes, I did. It was I think it was Vanderclay McGregor, if I recall. I'll put those. All those in favour? Against, declare them carried unanimously. Confidential items to be dealt with at the end. Item number 6 has been pulled out by Councillor Schreiber for a question. He moves it. It's seconded Councillor McGregor. A question from Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question through you to the General Manager. With the removal of the asbestos materials from the Springwood Golf Course, which funded through the investment fund, is this part of the agreement that we're working with Springwood Country Club about the funding repayment back to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll refer to Director Mr. Parsons.
Through you, CEO. Yes, you're correct, Councillor Schreiber. That is part of the agreement, or the money that's been allocated is part of the agreement with the country club.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, there's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. All right, now the next item we will deal with is item number 16, community engagement on sustainability and resilience activities. Who pulled this out? Is that you, Councillor Fell? Councillor Hollywood. Moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor Fell. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to draw everybody's attention that I'll be moving the majority of recommendations as the motion plus an additional point 6, I think it is 5 or 6.
Yep.
5. So hopefully everybody's got that. It's basically why I want to add on that extra point is within the body of the report, it does note that their council has worked with Resilience Blue Mountains to apply for a grant for a festival of resilience, which I think is really terrific. But I just also wanted to highlight that in the original notice of motion and CSRs that I had brought forward, that this idea of some kind of public festival was really at the heart of the discussions that I'd been having with community members. So I just didn't want to lose that concept if the grant's unsuccessful, that we continue to pursue opportunities to make that happen. So really, and I believe that it's principle, so I'm not suggesting that we fund it at that point because that would be out of order. So basically, I think this report is really terrific. And I also think that it stands us in good stead for picking up some of the themes that really are at the heart of our community and our focus on resilience and sustainability as we move into developing the new strategic plan as well. So I'll keep it short because I know it is a long night, but I do know that there are some people, I think, from Resilience Blue Mountains listening in tonight as well, and really thrilled with the report. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hollywood. Councillor Fell wish to speak.
No, I just echo the comments made by Councillor Hollywood, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Fell. Any other speakers on this matter? It's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Item number 17. Who pulled this out? Is that you, Councillor Fell? Councillor Hollywood, you wish to move something?
I think the item 17 was me, wasn't it?
It was you.
Is that the plastics?
Councillor Brown has the call. You wish to move something, Councillor Brown?
I am actually going to, I'm just checking. I am going to move the motion. I just suppose I want
as a motion.
The report, yeah.
One second. Let me chair the meeting, Councillor Brown. You're moving the recommendations as a motion. It's seconded. Councillor Hollywood. Councillor Brown has the call.
Look, I suppose all I wanted to say was I have been trying to get our council to commit to actually banning single-use, or at least phasing out single-use plastics. I don't feel we're there yet, but I understand. I'm supporting this because I understand the intention was there. I would like to have seen something that had a little bit more solid and clear processes for us removing single-use plastic, but I suppose in the absence of that, I may still come up with another single-use plastic motion, but I do at least take heart from the fact that I believe that we are committed to not having single-use plastics. I also would like to just note that I believe that in terms of if we ever get back to our festivals, we have a minor incentive there for reduction of single-use plastics at festivals and the food stalls and so on. And I think it's actually really important that we make that, again, a bit more solid. And actually the incentive, the financial incentive should be for banning single-use plastics at the festivals. And then we give them a really good financial incentive for it. So just being a little bit more definite about things. I know that in terms of the weight, or if you like, the landfill from plastic, it looks like not a big stream, but in the end, it's not just about the landfill. It's actually, as I always say, it's the way that single-use plastics end up everywhere in the environment and the terrible damage they do. So I said, I'm supporting this. I may still come up with yet another way of trying to get a stronger commitment from the council, but I do acknowledge that it's certainly part of the culture of our council now to try and find alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hollywood has the call. Councillor Brown, thank you very much. Councillor Hollywood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am actually happy to support the recommendations and the motion as it is. And part of that reason is we need to remember that, in fact, the New South Wales government is itself going through quite an extensive consultation process around single-use, the future of single-use plastics Now, I know we've said on numerous times when numerous motions, including my own, have come forward around single-use plastic bags and single-use plastics, that part of the regulation, or in fact, all of the regulation, I would actually say, occurs at the state government level, that the leadership will come from the state government. Now, the Environmental Protection Authority is undertaking consultations. They had, my understanding is that they had put out an issues paper with a major have your say process in May, and they're still analysing those results and consulting with key stakeholders. So I think at this point, we also need to remember that there may be broader reform that occurs and is led through the state government. So I think, I know we bounce around these issues around what, whether it needs to be the local council leading or whether it's the state government. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about the possibility of bans, we really do need the state government behind that process. Otherwise, it's very confusing for people.
Thanks, Councillor Hollywood. Anything further from councillors on this matter? Any opposition? One matter before us, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 18, it's moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor Fell.
I would like to, this is actually a response to my motion from 2 years ago. It's the annual report, so I'd like to move this.
You can address it. I've called Councillors Hollywood and Fell because Councillor Hollywood's lodged different words, but you can speak.
Well, I can accept them. I'm happy to accept them.
I've taken Councillors Hollywood and Fell as moving. Councillor Hollywood has the call, and Councillor Fell.
So my motion of dissent there. Councillors are entitled.
Motion of dissent. Does the Mayor have a right to take, move and second receives first? Motion of dissent. Any Councillor Brown, you move it. Is it seconded?
I hope so.
Is the dissent motion seconded? It's not. It lapses.
Well, can I say what my dissent is so people know what I'm dissenting on?
You don't have a seconder. It lapses. You can speak to the matter, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
I'm entitled to code of meeting practice.
I'm calling you to order.
Okay, it's a point of order. It's a point of order now. Under the code of meeting practice, I'm entitled to move a motion that's arisen from a notice of motion of mine.
No, you're not, Councillor Brown. Any motion on the business paper is moved and seconded by the persons I see first. And I've ruled that way, and I'll now move to the mover of the motion. You can speak to it and amend if you wish. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And hopefully all councillors have seen that we'll be moving all of the points as in the report, but with an additional point 6 that we continue to look for alternatives for the use of glyphosate. So at this point, I will say that we do continue to have some members of the community who are concerned about the use of glyphosate. We also have a balancing act around the significant challenges of weed management across our city, and particularly in our bush-urban interfaces. And I would also say that the report sets out very clearly some of the trials, which are terrific that we have as a council undertaken those trials. And I really commend people, the broader community, to read this report thoroughly. But I do think that we do need to continue to look for alternatives that might come onto the market, and also where costs might come down as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak, Councillor Fell, or are you content?
I am content with part 6 as well.
Councillor Brown has the call.
I said this is a report that I called for 2 years ago, and I'm pleased to see that they're doing serious trials and getting real data. I think that's good. There was no question that certainly initially anyway, it was going to cost more. The labour of it is more, but I don't think, in terms of the risks of glyphosate, about 1 million tonnes a year are now being dumped onto the planet. The research around the impact of glyphosate, and I could talk for half an hour on this, but aside from starting at the human level and the human risks, the microbial world is being changed by glyphosate and also its breakdown product. So some microbes actually benefit from it and some don't. So the microbes are the basis of life. The food chain starts there. When you start changing that, you change what species further up the chain will survive. You change the whole ecosystems. The evidence around even the impact now on resistance to antibiotics is related, they believe, to the impact on the microbial life from glyphosate. Saying again, some fungus and bacteria actually benefit from it. And that's impacting on agricultural crops, how they take up nutrients. There are so many impacts. Amphibians in water are particularly impacted by glyphosate. We're in a World Heritage Area. When I see any glyphosate spraying and you know it's going washing down the streets into our waterways, it just breaks my heart. I know it's not easy and it's not going to be cheap, but this is something we need to pursue. I do have a question I'll come back to about the slasher, because the motion suggests that only the 2 products, which I think are around the steaming, worked, but not slasher. And it appears that slasher works in some cases and not others. But what I think is critical is we understand a couple of things. One is that at the moment, our weed management in many areas is such that we're not spraying glyphosate very often. So what you're getting is a whole seeding process, and then the glyphosate is sprayed. Then the seeds come up and you get a whole new generation anyway. If we get to the point where our weed management is we're getting in before the seeding, in the end, our labour will drop. So it's not just the product, it's actually how often we do it. And it's so important to get in before the seed cycle. And I know the council's not doing that because I'm out in our environment all the time and I see weed seeding everywhere. Just in terms, I just want to mention too, and I'll pass this on to staff, there's been an offer from a local landscaper who uses steam. He has one of those big professional steamers and he uses that. And he is willing to give us, to use it for free, to give a free sort of run and do the whole of Katoomba Street to show, so we can actually trial it. And he will do that for free. So I'll pass that on to staff. But I think the fact that we have people up here already using these products, when Councillor Hollywood talks about looking at alternatives, that's right, and we need to talk to the industry, talk to the people who are working at the sustainable end. I think in terms of human health, that's obviously a very controversial area, but we now have these huge cases in America already on people's impact, cancer development. The World Health Organization since 2015 has recognised that glyphosate probably is carcinogenic. For me, this is just like tobacco. It's like asbestos. It's all those things that these big companies fight to the end, but it will become illegal sooner or later. And I think the quicker we can move on this, the better. But I thank the staff for the work you've done. I think it's really useful. And my last question is, just through the Mayor to the General Manager, it says 2 of the products, but it appears that 3 of the products, that the slasher works in some cases, but not others. Is that correct?
Question from Councillor Brown through the CEO, relevant staff member. You're on mute, CEO.
Thanks, Mark. I'll refer that to Director Langerberg.
Thanks, CEO.
Yep, okay. The 2 most effective were the steam-based treatments such as steam and foam stream. Slasher is effective, but in some cases, but it's actually, you have to use quite a high volume of it to as part of its application. So its cost effectiveness was lower, but it certainly can work, the slasher. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Thank you for that question and speech, Councillor Brown. Is there anything further? Is there any opposition? Councillor Hua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just want to speak briefly on this matter. I do acknowledge that it's a very complex field and stirs a great deal of emotion and angst at the use of these pesticides. But I do really wish to suggest that we be guided by the science on these matters. And particularly, I would like to point people to an article published a couple of days ago in The Guardian by Graham Redfern, the very highly recognised environmental reporter, who's got a very interesting story about war entitled "War of the Weed Killer: Why Environmentalists Are Concerned About Moves to Ban Roundup." And in this article, he quotes an old flatmate of mine, Peter Dixon, a very highly regarded environmental consultant and bush regenerator, and another very old and dear friend of mine, Andrew Cox of the Invasive Species Council, who have recently commissioned a report, which the article is mainly focused on, from Professor Tim Lowe from the University of Queensland, I believe. Which outlines the risks of an outright ban on glyphosate. The risks of invasion of native ecosystems by weeds are very, very great, and glyphosate lamentably remains a very, very important tool in their armory. So I just think we need to maintain a balanced approach and listen to the advice of the environmental advocates who have spent their lives dedicated to protecting native biodiversity from the onslaught of weeds. And by all means, let's investigate all of the alternatives. And I'm sure there's lots of innovations occurring in this field. And it would be great to see our council being early adopters of any of the solutions that become available, but I do think it's important not to be throwing babies out with the bathwater.
For the record, Councillor Hoare, I'm not taking it as a speech against, because you did indicate you supported the resolution. Am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely, very much.
Yeah, thank you. Anything further, councillors? There's one matter before us. It hasn't been spoken against. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item 19, move Councillor Brown. I think you want to move this, Councillor Brown. You're on mute. Yep.
I think that was the one where I actually moved 20. Is that one of the tenders?
Yeah, 19 you pulled out for a question, but maybe you meant 20.
I think I did. Hang on, sorry. I might be able to ask it for 19 anyway.
It's provision of integrated environmental services. I'll take Councillor Van der Clay moving, Councillor Christie seconding, and Councillor Brown, do you have a question on the matter?
I think it's just a general question anyway, but it might not relate to this one. It was the table, looking at the table of capability, sometimes some of them that get in are actually have quite a low capability, like even less than 50% or just over it. So I'm just talking actually generally about the tenders process. Sometimes when there's a whole panel, some of the ones at the bottom seem to be quite low. And I'm just wondering, so 50% isn't a fail, like a pass-fail mark. Is that, I'm just understanding how that system, that percentage is working or what it means.
Through the CEO to the relevant staff member.
Sorry, I just, through you, Mr. Mayor, I refer to Mr. Langevin.
Councillors, I think we could discuss this matter in the confidential session, which actually has the table of capability, and then we can talk through the various elements for each of the panel.
We'll deal with it then. Thanks, Councillor Brown. There's one matter before us. It's been moved and seconded. Item number 19. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Remember, we will deal with all the confidential items. We've only resolved to go into confidential session. The next matter is item number 24. It's moved Councillor Van der Clay, seconded Councillor Hollywood. Councillor Van der Clay has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, this is a long time coming. The South Lawson Park draft plan of management. I'm reasonably happy with the report, but I when reading through the draft report and after our briefing, although we're looking at putting a toilet block in there eventually, there is nothing for it. We haven't got any funds to do it. So I'm really asking the staff to possibly in the foreseeable future to try to see if they can get some further grant funding for a toilet block for that particular area down there. We've got one down near the soccer field and near the bike track, but it's now getting very old. It's getting aged, and it will need an upgrade very shortly. So we really need to look at this issue within the short period of time. So I'm asking the staff whether they can do that, and I'm asking the community to really have their say over this draft master plan. It's taken a long while to get there, and we really like to see that and throw their support behind it and make recommendations of what they think they would like in that area. I know a lot of consultations gone into this, but this is very, very important. And I look forward to reading the report when that comes, and hopefully there will be a bit more support for a toilet block. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I thank the independent councillor for Ward 2 and call on Councillor Hollywood as seconder.
Yes, thank you. It has been a long journey, and there has, as the report identifies, quite significant consultation.
Sorry, Chris, if you go on mute, mate.
I did wonder, reading the report, what it would be like if we did have community members, if we were in the public gallery and in the council chambers and people were able to come and speak. But I do appreciate that we have an extended consultation period over Christmas. And I do hope that people will look at the detail of this report. I hope that it does strike the right balance between all of the kind of user groups and goals and outcomes that we're trying to realise with this really important area, not just for Ward 2, not just for Lawson, but actually for the whole of the Blue Mountains. So public exhibition means nothing is fully decided at this point for anybody who's listening in. But certainly we have done extensive consultation, so hopefully we are pretty close. So thank you. Look forward to the report coming back.
Councillor Hua.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I just wish to echo the comments of my fellow ward councillors and just to acknowledge the work that has been undertaken to explore the possibilities of being able to include a water play for our area, for our canine friends within the dog off leash area. I recognise there's a fair bit of work to go to examine as to whether that is actually possible, but I'm greatly appreciative of the responsiveness to the issues raised at the briefings. So thank you.
Thanks.
I hope we find a good place there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you, Councillor.
No.
Any further speeches on this? There's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item is item number 30. Councillor Brown, did you pull this out? Or was it Councillor van der Clay? Councillor van der Clay as chair pulled it out. Do you wish to move the report? Seconded Councillor Brown, I believe. Yep, Councillor van der Clay moves the report as a motion. Councillor Brown seconds it. Councillor van der Clay has the floor. And I think just for the records, we'll note that that's the chair and deputy chair moving and seconding. Councillor van der Clay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that this is an absolutely fabulous report, and the study, and I ask that the community really look at it, make comments about the report, and get back to us so we can have a look at where they feel that we may be missing or where we're not doing the right thing. But from just having a real good look at it over the weekend, I think it's absolutely excellent, and look forward to the comments back from the community. I know that the Heritage Committee and the members of the Heritage Committee have had a good look at it and made a lot of suggestions that have gone into the report. So I commend the report to the council.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. Is a seconder wish to speak? Councillor Brown has the call.
Yes, I agree very much with Councillor. I think this is a fantastic work. It's as usual from the heritage planners. It's clear and crisp and with very well identified categories and actions. I particularly love the 1.1 action in the knowledge gathering and documenting, and that's about providing an honest and complete narrative of both Aboriginal and European histories and include a comprehensive thematic history. I think it's so important. One of the things that's been missing for so long is well, the Aboriginal, the First Nations histories, but also the fact that that history has always continued. So it was Aboriginal, and then it became European and Aboriginal. It's never ceased being Aboriginal. And I think there's wonderful stories that we are only beginning to learn about of the interactions that have gone on between the First Nations people and basically the invaders. And there's both tragedy in that, but also strength and cooperation, which I think this council has been part of. So there's an honest story to be told about some of the terrible tragedies that have happened, from the dispossession of land, but also of what is happening now. And I suppose I always think of the Gully as one of the great stories of that. And so we start to tell those stories, and we do it as part of what we tell our visitors as well. And people like the Coopers, who were part of the Gully tragedy, but like Auntie Carol Cooper, who's still here telling us about the experiences of that and of being driven out. But now, you know, she is still a member of our community here. She is still an elder. So I think that's really important, that we're putting it at the front of our heritage strategy. I also love the fact that we are working to network people, to actually help people have heritage, own heritage, and resource it, understand how to protect it. And I think also to make money out of it economically, to see it as an economic strength. And that's one of the things that's being identified here, that we do have examples, great examples of where our heritage is actually one of the reasons our built heritage, not just our natural heritage, is one of the reasons people love coming to the mountains, and helping people with that, encouraging adaptive reuse or the original use, as I think we might do with Katoomba Kiosk. All that is part of what this strategy is looking at. So I think it's that, and also trying to build some of our actual funding that we put into it, including increasing the community funds we've given recently for people to do restoration work on their homes. All of those are about heritage just being integrated into what we're doing. And I think I mentioned it before, I think the Heritage of Western Sydney app, the House app, that we are now participating in as one of the councils, with a tour of 25, we've got 30, but there'll be 25 sites, colonial sites, that people can get an app, and then they'll be able to go to those sites around the mountains. They've been identified where they'll be accessible. They're accessible to the public, but they're part of our colonial history. And I think that's really exciting too. That again it's giving depth to the tourism experience, so that when tourists come here, they will be able to find out that we're not just the World Heritage. We are that, but we're also a cultural landscape with great depth to it. So I said, I'm very excited about the strategy, and I thank the staff and the Heritage Advisory Committee and everyone who's participated in creating this document. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brown. Is there any opposition? There being none, there's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Item number 37, it's moved Councillor Vanderklay, seconded Councillor Hollywood. Councillor Vanderklay has the call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is absolutely fantastic to see. This has been Terrace Falls Road is one of those roads that is very narrow. It's got a rural fire service fire station on it, and when there's a fire, around that area. It gets very, very busy. And the roads that lead into it from Railway Parade are all very narrow. We've had a whole lot of water issues down there, and I've had numerous CSRs over the years on this particular stretch of road. And it's just so good to see that that the tender's gone out for this. And I want to thank the staff for that. It is just good to see that more of this type of work is being done in the whole of the mountains, not only in Ward 2. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hollywood, did you wish to speak?
I just echo the comments and look forward to never having to put in another CSR on Terrace Falls Road. Let's hope.
Excellent. Councillor Hua, did you wish to echo those comments and say all the same things too?
Don't worry, I'll spare you that.
Thank you, Councillor Hua. All right, anything further on this matter? Nothing further. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Matter of urgency, Yango Reserve. I rule the matter is urgent. It's moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor McGregor. Councillor Brown has the call. I'm just dealing with the matter of urgency before we do confidential matters.
Yes, so this, I think many of you may know, Pete Piggott's wonderful, or the Piggott family's wonderful Yango Endangered Wildlife Reserve, which has been a primary contributor to saving the Palmer wallaby, which was thought to be extinct in 1958. In fact, it was thought to be extinct by about 1900. And then they found that New Zealand had some that they'd taken over as novelties in the 1860s. And so they, when they were discovered in the 1960s, Pete Piggott, who at that time was the chair of the National Parks and Wildlife Foundation's project committee, he funded, when they found them, they went looking for them. When they realised there were Australian animals over there, they found the Palmer wallaby, and he funded to bring back 38 of those wallabies. And it'll be 50 years next year since he bought land, put huge 3-metre electrical fences around it, built dams, and has been looking after and breeding those Palmer wallabies now since 1971. It's an amazing project. It's been such an inspiration to people. Mr. Piggott's been involved with in his role with national parks. He's worked on other endangered species, sort of saving them, including the Lord Howe wood hen and the yellow-footed wallaby. But this one has been one that he's personally looked after, and he's done so while he's been paying rates on that land, the 4 hectares. And he also, because the land is actually not enough to sustain the number of wallabies he's managed to breed there, he's also feeds the animals with roo food and root vegetables, so he's funding that. So he estimates about $1 million have been spent on this project over 50 years. But these wallabies have gone to Taronga Park Zoo, they've gone to national parks for release programs. They are difficult because of the feral animal problem, both clearance of land, but more particularly feral animals. They're small wallabies, cats and foxes. So it's still an incredibly important reserve. And the push here is to find a way that council doesn't have to charge residential rates. And Mr. Piggott's done his own work on this, and we found finally that the solution through the National Parks and Wildlife Act is that if he has a conservation agreement with the Biodiversity Conservation Trust of the state government, if he has a conservation agreement, then this is complicated, but under the Local Government Act, it becomes exempt. There's an exemption for private land with a conservation agreement. You become exempt for rates. That would save the Piggott family $4,000 a year. And I think given the huge contribution they're making and continue to make in sustaining this reserve, it would be fantastic for us to do that. There's been, obviously Taronga Park and national parks support it because they have seen and they know how important this project has been. Aside from anything else, it's breeding. I think there's about 300 wallabies have been provided from this reserve, and they do help keep the gene pool too. You're actually keeping the gene pool diverse by this. So all I'm suggesting is that okay, we're going to lose a little bit of rates, but it's such an important and such an inspiring project that conservationists visit, school children visit it. There's many people who, over the years have gone to the reserve, and it's showing us that we can all do something. To see one person who's taken this and stuck with it for 50 years is just remarkable, you know, stuck with this little animal. So I'd encourage, I'm sure Ms. Pete would love any of you to come out and visit. But what I'm saying is, it's not that we do anything as a council, but we could write a letter supporting the conservation agreement, because what will happen is an application will go to the Biodiversity and Conservation Trust.
1 minute.
And for a conservation agreement to be established. There's no money to be made or anything out of this. The Piggotts will continue to be funding the project, but once they get that, then we can exempt them. The council can exempt them from the rates, and that would be our contribution. That we are happy to support that and to help that, because this is the first privately owned endangered species reserve in Australia, and it happened here in Mount Wilson. So I think it's a really exciting thing for us to all support. So I hope you all do. I think we've all supported the earlier one. Thank you. And thank you to the Piggott family.
Just one correction, councillors. The council can't waive rates, only the state government can. So I just wanted to make that clear in case residents believe we can waive rates. We can't, but we can support a move that sees the state government doing it, given the conservation work that's happening on this site. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Does the seconder wish to speak, or are you? Yes, Councillor McGregor, you have the call.
No, I'm quite content with that, Mr. Mayor.
Are content. Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Anyone else wish to speak? No one wishes to speak. There's no opposition to this. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. I thank you. I think we now only have a series of confidential items to deal with. So I'll now ask for a motion that we resolve into confidential session. It's moved, Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Fernanda. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. We'll now resolve into confidential session. I'll ask the staff to guide us through that process. Storm, I'll ask you to advise me when we're confidential.
If we just give Storm and Toby a moment, you'll have a pop-up on your screen to go into the breakout room. Please enter the breakout room and we'll see you there.
Okay, join the breakout room.
Yes.
It's just me staying in the room, and just take a moment for the rest of the staff.
Thank you, councillors. We're back live. May I have a motion to close the meeting? Moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor Fell. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. I declare the meeting closed and remind you that we have another council meeting next week, an extraordinary meeting to deal with the matters that were the subject of the deferral motion by Councillors Brown and Hua. I wish you all a good night. Thank you all and take care.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
everybody.
Good night. Good night, Jay. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night, Independence.
Yeah, we've joined your club.
Yay, I'm not alone.
And again, I take my hat off to you guys.